Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. Surprisingly, Matt Brandenburg is absent today, but with me, as always, is Vitlame Mist
Heyo.
and the author of Goddamn Zombie Chainsaw Murder, Sean Malia Thompson, is with us as well.
It's Malia, but yes.
Melia, my apologies. I should have asked you before we started recording.
It's fine. It's basically O'Malley. It's like a different form of O'Malley.
Okay. Yeah, we're very professional here at Abyss, if you couldn't tell.
Oh, it's fine. I've done 2 podcasts now. I could not tell you how many names I fucked up, so.
Yeah. Honestly, names are hard, but
they are.
I know you've been on Abyss a few times before, so welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
And how have you been recently these days? Or I did so what you've been up to for a bit.
Doing pretty good. I mean, my 2023 sucked. I don't know if you want to get into that now, or I assume after the media breakdown.
We can do our shitty 2023s after the media. I think that might be a bit
cathartic. Yeah, I don't want people to be like, I don't want to too early. So.
Yeah, that's true. You want to give them some entertainment first before you bum everybody out.
Right, I want to give at least 20 minutes before they're like, okay, I'm going to leave.
Yeah, it's like that movie where you have like the nice dog and everything's cool for the first half hour, and then the dog dies, and then everyone's bummed out for the rest of the movie.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, we actually don't have a book or a story that we're discussing today. We are going to be discussing an upcoming work of Sean's. So I'm excited to talk to Sean about what he has in the pipeline, and we'll get into the future of his publishing in a little bit. But before we do that, why don't we dive into some media recommendations? And I got to say, this is the earliest I think we've ever gotten into media.
Yes.
We've only been recording 2 minutes and we're already there. So this might be a streamlined episode. We'll find out. So last night, I went to the movies to see Abigail.
Oh, okay. And is it good?
It's fun. My issue is the movie's exposition is very heavy-handed, but the movie's entertaining. It has some good kills. Dan Stevens is always fantastic to watch.
True.
Marissa Barrera, I thought was pretty good in her role as well. And the little girl who plays the vampire, Ballerina, this is like her second movie, and like she's great. I want to see more of her.
So I like from the trailer, I kind of felt like the vibe was a little bit like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Is it kind of like that?
It's
like
more kind of like
when it comes to the deaths, at least.
So the deaths are mostly, I wouldn't really say Dale and Tucker versus Evil and compare it to the deaths. To be honest, one death happens off camera.
Oh.
And it's a decapitation.
Ooh.
One death is pretty gnarly that happens to a character on camera that gets mauled up. But a lot of the deaths
Why
are like,
show that and that not the decapitation? Do you think people are bored with it?
No, the decapitation is more of kind of like, I mean, in the character that's mauled up, again, it kind of happens off camera and you see the aftermath of it because it's more trying to build suspense of what's happening.
I see.
Because this is before the character is revealed to be what she is.
I see.
So it's kind of like to keep a mystery. But then once it reveals that she's like a vampire, it's pretty much action-packed, lots of killing from there. And like they do the what was it? From Dusk Till Dawn route, where like when you kill vampires, they fucking explode.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like gore splashing everywhere.
Okay, so it's a little nod to Tarantino. No, he didn't do it, but to Dusk Till Dawn, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say like if I were to compare it to any movie, I'd compare it to a Radio Silence's movie Ready or Not.
I love that movie.
But I don't think this is as good as Ready or Not.
Yeah, Ready or Not is amazing.
Ready or Not's a really good movie. I like that one a lot. I think that it's better than Abigail, but if I were to compare Abigail to anything, it would be Ready or Not, because it's the same directing team. It has kind of the same vibe as like Ready or
Okay.
Not does.
It's kind of like, yeah, like it has the cat and mouse thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I compare it to that, but it is a lot of fun. The humor works really well. And what's his face? The dude from Euphoria, the one who died
Mhm.
last year, he's actually really good in this movie too. He's not in it for long, but his role in it's really good.
Okay.
And kind of sucks that he died because I think he would have had a really good career.
Yeah.
And then besides that, I'll just have one more movie I'll talk about, then I'll pass it around, and there's a few more things we could talk about. But I got home from Abigail and I was still kind of craving horror. So I turned on Shudder.
Did you watch A Late Night with the Devil?
I already watched Late Night with the Devil. I saw that in theaters actually.
Oh, I did. Did you pay money for that?
To see it in theaters?
Yeah. Why did you do that?
Because I wanted to have the theater experience to see Late Night with the Devil instead of waiting until it comes on Shudder. But
okay, yeah. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, like they use AI, and I don't support that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm not going to. I think we might have had this conversation with Late Night with the Devil, but my thing with Late Night with the Devil, and like, this is more of a nuanced conversation than that people are having it to be. Because do I support AI? No, I don't. However, this movie was made in 2022 when the conversation around AI was a lot different than it is today. Does that excuse them for using it? No. But am I going to boycott a movie over ultimately what is 3 or 4 seconds of screen time? Also, no.
I mean, yeah, I get that, but at the same time, they like could have worked it out in post, you know.
Yeah, they could have, but at the same time, like once it's done, you know? And it's also like if it was made like post all this AI controversy stuff, I don't think they would have gone that route. I think because they've talked about it and they said like when they were making the movie, they were making it in like 2021, 2022, where the conversation was very different than it is today. And they just thought it was like a cool tool. They're going to use it and do some things. And now later, the conversation around it's much different than it was back then. So like I understand both things, like both sides of it, but it also looks like because I remember when like the AI image generators first came out, and well, I remember when they were getting popular in like 2021, and like I was playing with them and stuff, and I thought this was cool. And then like it kind of lost interest and did other things. And then a couple years later, all the more controversies came out about them.
Yeah.
I remember how interesting it was that, like, I forget what year, but, you know, it was like, look, you can do this weird ass AI shit. And it was all about how, like, terrible the images were and how cursed.
Yeah.
So it's funny that the conversation turned back around to, like, isn't this a great and wonderful tool that every company should use and, like, get rid of most of our employees because of it?
Yeah. And like, but I will say, when I did see Late Night with the Devil in theaters, technically I didn't pay money because I'm a chump. And when it's movie season time, I subscribe to AMC Plus or AMC A-List Premiere, which you pay like $20 a month, and every week you get 3 free movie tickets. So if you see like 2 movies a month with this program, you make your money back.
I mean, that's not bad.
So like what I do is I just like between like March and probably September, I just subscribe to this to see all the movies I want to see. And then like when it's kind of movie dry season, I cancel it and then I start it up again later.
Then you're excused.
But
you're forgiven.
so I saw Late Night with the Devil way back when I was in theaters, and I think I talked about it here on the podcast. If not,
yeah, I think we did. Yeah,
I recommend it. I think it's a great movie. I also think boycotting it over the use of ultimately like 3 AI generated images. And again, I'm not defending the use of the AI generated images, but I think boycotting it over those does a disservice to all the actors who put their work in, all the cameramen who put their work in. Like David Dashlane gave a hell of a performance in this movie, one of the best of his career.
I agree. I did watch the movie on Wednesday, but I downloaded it. So they will probably realize by now that if people don't have Shudder, that this is going to be the most pirated movie this year, maybe.
I don't know about that. I can think of a couple others being more pirated than this one, but I do think it's a great movie, and I would recommend it.
I enjoyed it.
That's not what I'm going to talk about right now. I'll let it get to you. We can talk about it a bit more in depth.
Sure.
What I'm going to talk about is a French movie called Infested. And let me fucking tell you, how do you feel about spiders?
Depends. I don't mind the little ones, but if it's like the size of my hand, then no. And then when the jerky movements they sometimes do, like the jumping spider, that freaks me out.
How do you feel about spiders, Sean?
Well, I used to be much worse with them, but then I moved to Santa Fe where we get probably like 5 or 6 black widows in the yard every summer. So I had to get okay with them. I mean, I still hate them, but I had to get okay with them real quick. I did realize like it just really hurts if a human gets bitten by it. I mean, I didn't get bitten or anything, but like, you do the research because you hear like, oh, you can die. But it's apparently very rare for someone to die. Yeah. Like you'd have to have a heart condition already or something. Needless to say, you see these little, instantly it's this jet black thing with the red on the back, and you're just like, fuck, no.
Yep. Well, so Infested is like I said, it's a French horror movie, and it is about this building that's pretty much like the French equivalent of Section 8 housing, where it's just all low-income housing. Our main character, his main source of income is he's secondhand sells shoes to people. Like he either steals or gets like brand new shoes, like Air Jordans and Yeezys, and then sells them to people like, off the market and stuff like that to make a profit. And on the side, he has a hobby of collecting rare insect species.
It's a weird fucking hobby, but okay.
It is. And he goes to a shop, his dealer, and his dealer got in a new spider that he hasn't seen before. So our character buys it, brings it home, and it's a very fast and aggressive spider. He brings it home. He doesn't have a tank for it yet, so he puts it in a shoebox, and then he goes.
Yeah, because they're so adept at not getting out of those things.
Yeah, and he goes on his way. He gets back home. The spider has escaped from the shoebox, and he finds a little egg cocoon. Later, the apartment building is infested with spiders because these spiders are very aggressive. They're very fast. They breed very fast, and they keep on evolving.
Yeah, that's a no for me.
In the movie, all the people who live in this building are quarantined inside the apartment because nothing in the apartment can escape because of the species of spider. And it's up to our characters fighting to survive against these spiders that are constantly growing and growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's great.
Give me the name, and I'm gonna forward it to my little brother who has a phobia for spiders.
It's called Infested.
Great. He's gonna have a good time this weekend. It's a French horror movie, and if you know anything about French horror movies, is they don't give a fuck.
No, they really don't.
Like, this movie's brutal. Like, some of the character deaths are super agonizing, and you're just watching it and you're like, fuck, this is brutal. And what makes it even worse is as the spiders are evolving, when they bite people, they actually begin to burrow inside the people's skin
No!
and lay eggs inside them.
No!
That's like the mist.
So there's a bunch of parts of the movie where you just see spiders hatching out of people's bodies.
No! No! Nope. Yeah, that's a no for me.
It is so good. It is a really good, tense, scary horror movie. And when I say scary, like you know me, it takes a lot to scare me in a horror movie. This movie had me on the edge of my seat the entire runtime. Like,
Yeah,
it's
no.
intense. It's intense. And one cool thing about this movie is it was on the festival circuit last year. So it was in a bunch of international movie festivals and stuff last year. And guess who saw it last year? Sam Raimi.
Oh,
And guess what Sam Raimi did after seeing this movie?
don't know.
He offered the director the position to direct the new Evil Dead movie.
Eh.
Really?
So this French director is now directing a new Evil Dead movie that's being produced by Sam Raimi off of how much Raimi liked Infested. And judging by Infested, it could be really good, but I also feel like Evil Dead doesn't have the same identity as it used to have. Where, like, I feel a lot of people go to Evil Dead expecting more slapstick horror, and some people go to Evil Dead expecting more, like, serious horror, and it's hard to strike a balance between the two. And I don't think anybody can do it as well as Raimi can do it. But I'll see his new movie when it comes out. I'll see his Evil Dead movie. I'll see where it goes. But I have a couple more, but those are the main for me. But Vitlame, what about you?
Well, I did watch Late Night with the Devil on Wednesday. It was a holiday here in Iceland. Like we call it the first day of summer, so we usually get a holiday there because lack of sun and everything.
Yep.
So we decided to watch Late Night with the Devil, and yeah, we enjoyed it. I did like the intro. The intro is really nice. Like how they introduced what was his character's name again?
Jack
Yeah.
Jack something.
Yeah. But the actor.
Oh, David Dashlamain.
Yeah. So yeah, they how they introduced his character, like he was at the top of the game, but then suddenly Carson was just too hard to beat.
I mean, to be fair, Carson's a hard competition.
Apparently, yeah, I wouldn't know because I lived in Iceland and we didn't have this kind of television at that time. So yeah, but I also liked the little nods to like reality, like to art, like
the Bohemian Grove.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also love the they just like I will just call it the Grove. And like people will get it.
But then they show the fucking owl, and it's like, come on, that's the Bohemian Grove. Like, come on.
I know, right? I thought it was really, really clever. I was like, I don't know how many people would recognize this, but us horror people, we know this.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the owl, I was like, you motherfuckers. I know exactly where this is going.
And they also had the guy who was, going around debunking all the, mediums and everything.
Yes.
That guy is was real. He's dead, unfortunately, now. But he offered a lot more money than he did in the movie.
Yeah.
But so yeah, these little nods were also really nice. I was like, oh, it's good to connect us to to our reality. And I did like how it went back and forth from taping the show and then showing what was happening after they cut the commercials.
Those behind the scenes, like when it goes to black and white, like when it goes from black and white into full screen and like the live feeds are off.
Yeah.
like David Dashman in those scenes, like there's so much tension,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see him at his like wit's end, and it's so impressive to just see him instantly switch between the two.
Yeah, he's a
When
really
like,
good actor. I really hope he gets more offers now.
well, the thing is, like, he's always been a good character actor, but it was really fun to see him carry a movie like on his
Yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Um,
I also liked how it gave off like a nod to Ghostbusters. Did you not see that?
I saw that.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
with the electric currents and how what happens in the end. I'm not going to spoil it. And I just immediately liked it. I'm getting a Ghostbusters feeling out of this. This is nice. And then it turned super dark, and I'm like, even better. Nice.
I love, what was it? This is a slight spoiler, but the part when the guy like opens up his stomach and there's worms everywhere.
Yes. That was a nod to Poltergeist, though.
It was a nod to Poltergeist, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I loved all these little nods to what we've like, experienced through movies or through our reality. So I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
And what else did I? Oh, if you guys haven't, if you're a theater kid like I am, or just enjoy musicals at all, you definitely need to watch Hazbin Hotel.
So I have a fun story about Hazbin Hotel.
Okay.
I watched the first episode and decided it's not for me. But
Okay.
that's not saying it's bad. I just gave it a try and I wasn't too into it. But one of my friends who's also a teacher, she teaches the 5th grade. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her students is obsessed with Hazbin Hotel.
Okay.
Which, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel 5th grade's a bit too young to kind of be.
Oh yeah, I mean this
Hazbin Hotel.
Hazbin Hotel it's graphic, but at the same time, it's not.
But yeah, but it's very like sexual and
Yes,
it's
it's very
very
sexual.
profane.
Yeah,
Like I
for
would
me,
if he was in high school, I'd be like whatever. But 5th grade's a bit.
I mean, I'm like Iceland. We're kind of like we're the people who actually don't give a fuck because we go to the swimming pools and we dress naked all together and we shower together. So like this thing of like sex or sexuality or nudity or anything like that, it doesn't bother us. So I think here in Iceland, if a kid like in the 5th grade would watch Hazbin Hotel, they wouldn't bat an eye to it.
Yeah. Well, we'll say this kid's also, his favorite character is Angel, and he's been screaming angel dust in classroom, not realizing angel dust is also the name of a drug.
Yeah.
It's been very disruptive in the class.
I can imagine the poor thing. Well, she can just tell him, like, could you just call him by his real name? His name is Anthony.
Yeah, she tried that and it didn't work.
Ah, crap. Oh well.
And but anyway, I just want to tell that so you can go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine, but it's really nice. Like I definitely like the first episode is not as great as an intro. I'm gonna admit, but once you get past that, it gets so much better. And just all the characters, they're like the animation is really fluid. I love how they're just always on the move, which is great for this generations of lack of attention spans. And I've been listening to the songs like on repeat ever since I finished the series, and I really, really hope that they're gonna have a season 2 because there was like a nod to more story in regards to some of the characters, especially Alistair.
It's been a big success, so I'd be surprised if there wasn't a season 2.
I mean, they picked it up from Amazon, so I assume, I can only hope that they're going to pick up season 2.
I don't know if Invincible's already getting like 4 seasons. I think we can get a second season of Hazbin Hotel.
And they're getting like they also have the rights for Legend of Vox Machina and Mighty Nine. So
yes, which I need to watch the Mighty Nine when that drops.
I'm so ready for Mighty Nine. That's my favorite campaign. I haven't got that into campaign 3 at the moment. So yeah.
But
yeah, I think that's the thing that I'm gonna tap
All
out
right.
on.
Sean, what about you?
Excuse me. Wasn't necessarily a horror movie, but I watched Love Lies Bleeding yesterday.
I wanted to
which
see
I
Love
loved.
Lies Bleeding so bad.
Yeah, it like just came out like yesterday, so
What's it about?
it's about basically late 80s, and there's this female bodybuilder that falls in love with a scraggly tomboy played by Kristen Stewart, and they have a lot of sex, and a lot of violence also ensues.
I hear Ed Harris is really great as the villain.
He is. I saw this funny, I don't know if it's a meme, but my girlfriend sent it to me, where it's like seeing K-Stu, and it's like, wow, that's a cool mullet. And then seeing Dave Franco, wow, an even cooler mullet. And then seeing Ed Harris, it's like, wow, because they all have these crazy mullets. So yeah, I like that. Not necessarily. I mean, I like mullets, but it's a good movie. It's not just for mullets. And then I also watched Caitlin Cronenberg's Humane, which I liked.
I want to see that really bad.
Yeah, it's good. I think that one also came out. I can't remember if
I
it's
feel
been out.
so out of touch right now. So can you tell me what's it about?
Oh yeah, it's it didn't get a huge campaign, so I'm not surprised like a ton of people haven't heard of it. It's basically like a near future where they have this thing called enlisting, where you can volunteer to be euthanized and your family gets money for it because of overpopulation. So this family's father.
That's such an interesting topic.
Yeah, so this family's father signs up with his wife, but then the wife, well, slight spoiler, then the wife doesn't want to do it, so she like runs away, and they show up and they're like, well, we need to get 2 bodies though, so one of you has to also die. But it's surprisingly funny. Yeah, I want
to see it. It looked really good from the trailers.
I think it's on Shudder.
Is it on Shudder now? I thought it was a Neon.
I think so.
I'll take a look for it. I'll see if I can find it.
I think it's IFC, so I thought I read it might not be on Shudder. I just thought I had read that.
Yeah, I'll take a look, see where I can watch it. But it does look. Oh, I can rent it for like $7.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It is an IFC.
I was
movie,
about to be like, don't
IFC,
spend money, but I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's worth $7.
Yeah, I'll take a look on it. Sounds really good. Also, like I feel like all the Cronenberg children are making interesting movies.
They are. I like that they're all different too, because I sort of expected, Caitlin. I was like, oh, is she going to be like Brandon? But she isn't. And then they're both different from David. So
yeah, one thing I like about David is he never went to film school, so like all his movies feel like outsider art.
Yeah,
like
true.
He's like just every movie he makes feels unique, and because he never went to traditional film school, he's not making movies as like a traditional director would. And I think that's always been interesting about his career.
Yeah, no, he's definitely interesting. So yeah, I watched Love Lies Bleeding, which I liked, and I watched Humane, which I liked. And other than that, we're doing an X-Files rewatch, but the X-Files has been out for 25 years now, so people know what the X-Files is.
Yeah.
Yeah, X-Files is great. I will say I do have one more big recommendation I'd give to people. It's not horror, but I mean, it kind of is in a sense. But has anyone seen the Netflix series Baby Reindeer?
I heard about it.
I've seen it on Netflix. I haven't started yet.
It's
because
really...
I'm actually kind of like watching the latest season of The Circle.
So I strongly recommend Baby Reindeer. It's based on
a real thing that happened to him, right?
Yes. So, in a sense, I'll actually explain a little bit. So, it's written by and stars comedian Richard Gadd, and it's an adaptation of 2 of his one-man plays. Back in I think 2014 or 2015, he produced a one-man play called Monkey See, Monkey Do at the Edinburgh Fringe Fest. And this play is kind of like a darkly comedic play that deals with his experiences in the entertainment industry of being groomed and sexually abused by a man with power in the industry and what that abuse did to him. And then a few years later, and that was a big hit at the Edinburgh Fringe Fest. And then a few years later, he went back to the Edinburgh Fringe Fest and performed Baby Reindeer, which, similar to Monkey See, Monkey Do, was a one-man play that was his experiences dealing with a stalker and how that affected him and his life. And the Netflix show is a dark comedy. It is funny at points, but it's also very sad and intense. But it's an adaptation of both of those plays together as like a full kind of cast drama. That's Richard Gadd using both these experiences to analyze trauma and how this trauma affected him and his relationships with other people. And it's sad and intense, and it's good. But you're not going to feel good watching it, I'll tell you that.
I mean, that will do ya. Like this kind of thing that happens in real life, and when it's portrayed like that, you're not gonna feel good about it afterwards.
And like even in real life, like all it was is, and the show gets into this as well, because he talks in interviews. It's like when you're really getting stalked, it's not like it is in movies or TV shows. And at first, it doesn't really feel like stalking until it does feel like stalking. But like what it was is he was working as a bartender, and he felt like his career's kind of hit a dead end. And this is also after he was abused by the man in the industry. So he's kind of all mentally just not well, like with his life at the moment. And he's working as a bartender, and this woman comes in the bar, and he goes to her and he's like, "What do you be having?" And she goes, "I can't afford nothing." And then he goes back and serves other people, and then he pours a cup of tea and gives it to her, and he just said, "This is on the house." And that one act of just giving her that cup of tea began her stalking him relentlessly for like 6 years.
Just this act of kindness, it can sometimes just can go haywire.
And like the Netflix series makes it seem like it was over like several months. But in real life, she stalked him for 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, he had to deal 6 years with this. And literally, it's like her showing up at his work every single day. She finds his website and gets his email address and just starts sending him emails every single day. Hundreds of emails I think in total he got like 46,000 emails from her.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And like all the emails is she'd type it out, and she'd always type out "from my iPhone," but she never had an iPhone. And she'd mainly type out "from my iPhone" in every single email she sent. Sometimes that would be misspelled too. But like,
I don't know why, but that scares me more than anything else so far.
I mean, honestly, it's psychopathic behavior, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it also kind of gets into like why he put up with it for so long too, because he could have gone to the police earlier. It's like, why didn't he do that? And he realizes like part of him liked the attention that he was getting from her, because he was in such a low place in his life that someone giving him this kind of attention was something he was longing for. Right.
Also, stalking is notoriously hard to prosecute. Like people go to the cops all the time, and they're just like, "Well, no, technically, no crime has been committed," because it's like it's just this guy is showing up where you are, but that's not a crime.
Yeah, I mean, I won't spoil, but he does eventually go to the police with everything too. But it's also like he gets into like, you know, his whole mindset with this. It gets into kind of not her mindset, but you also understand like, even though she's like kind of a psychopath, there's also a bit about her own story that's sad, where like how messed up somebody has to be in their life to resort to this sort of behavior. It gets into like how this trauma affected him and his relationships. It gets into his recovery and how he begins to do better and process these struggles and the traumas that he's gone through. And it's a very like important show, I feel. It's just going to make you very uncomfortable as you watch it. So it was actually pretty funny. Like there's a couple parts I was laughing out loud a lot too. Like because he's a comedian, so he's trying to make it a dark comedy and balance all those tones.
Trying to ease it up. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, don't worry, there'll be you can chuckle along at my own misery.
Well, like can I give one spoiler?
Sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in one episode, do you mind, Sean?
Yeah, I don't mind.
So in one episode, she confronts him under a bridge, and they get into kind of an argument, and she takes that as like flirtatious fighting, and she molests him.
Yikes.
Which goes into him getting sexually assaulted by the man in the industry, which then, after all this, he begins dating somebody, and he struggles with getting it up after all that. But you know what he begins doing? Imagining her. And that works for him for some reason. And he kind of makes a joke. He kind of makes a joke out of the whole thing.
That's not good. Oh my
But
God, such severe trauma.
It's really severe. That's the point, is like how traumatic it all is. And it shows us like how fucked up he is from all this trauma. And
Yeah.
like by him making a joke, he's acknowledging of how fucked up it is, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Like, because like the way he does it, he's like, so I started masturbating the thoughts of Martha. And like just the way he says it, and the way he presents it, it's like a really funny comedy bit, but at the same time, it's like, this is so fucked up.
Yeah.
But it is worth watching. It's just, you don't need a comfort watch after you watch this one. So maybe like binge Baby Reindeer and then watch more of The Circle. I think you'll be good.
Yes. Watch The Circle. It helps.
Or like binge Baby Reindeer, then put on Love on the Spectrum, and
Yeah.
like something calm after. But that's the last thing for me. If you guys have anything.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna tell people, like, if they haven't checked out The Circle on Netflix, they should definitely do. They kind of upped the ante this season. They actually had an AI as the
Really?
contestant. Yeah. And it was interesting. He was really fooling the other contestants. Like, he was playing a guy named Max, and he had a dog, and of course, and he said, like, he did all this kind of calculations, like, yeah, people, like, statistics say that people that see pictures with dogs, they will immediately be drawn to them, and it was correct. All of them were like, oh, he's such a good doggy person and everything. And he even managed to go like into all alliances with the others. But what I don't understand, and this is like, I think there were like, I've binged like 7 episodes, but the rest will come next Wednesday. But and they dropped a bomb to the contestants to say, like, hey, by the way, there is an AI within the group. So it caused this kind of conflict between them. Everyone was like accusing everyone who was the AI and everything. And they managed actually to block a human person because they thought she was AI. And what I don't understand is that immediately after she was blocked, they revealed the AI. They just like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the AI, and showed the picture of this guy Max, and people are like, oh, and I'm like, why didn't you just keep going with the AI? Because that would have been really good television to see them all still doubting one another, like, who is the AI? Who can I trust and everything? So I don't know. It was weird, but they managed to put a little other things as well. Like, they have like this now ride or die, like, secret alliance, and none, like, they're like paired together with another contestant, and they don't like, and the others don't know. But if one of them is voted like low, then both of them can go. Like they have the possibility of being blocked. And they like the latest episode ended with like, hey, you have the chance to sacrifice yourself for your buddy who is in your ride or die alliance. But if you both decide that you don't want to sacrifice yourself, you both want to stay, you both get blocked. And they can't see, they can't talk to each other, they can't converse and chat about about their possibilities. They just have to choose. And it ended with that, and I have to wait until Wednesday to see what will happen.
Honestly, like, I don't know, The Circle sounds like a fun show. I've never seen it, but
it is fun. It is interesting, like based on the how they are playing the game. Some of them are doing it just to deceive people. Others are playing from the heart. And it's just, it always makes me wonder, like, if I were in this, what the fuck would I do? Like, would I catfish? And then I was like, nah, I'm a terrible liar. It probably wouldn't work. But at the same time, but then I think, no, wait, my voice gets really high pitched when I'm lying, according to my husband. They wouldn't know that when I'm chatting online. So I don't know. It gives us interesting questions, like what are you gonna do especially when you're in isolation, you can't talk, you can't see anyone, and the only method is just through like a chat room, and you can talk to a person, and you can't really distinguish what kind of person that is just through that.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to check this out.
It really is. It's a lot of fun.
I'll have like a big edible, and then I'll just watch reality TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've like kind of gone away from reality TV at the moment, but this is the one that I will like when a new season drops, I'm like, yep, I'm watching this. This is fun.
We can transition over into Sean time and talk about 2023, but also talk about Sean's new book coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, if I just spent an hour or whatever talking about 2023, I don't think even I'd want to listen to that. So I'll keep it like, short.
How was your 2023, Sean?
Bad. I mean, it wasn't all bad, like some really cool stuff happened. I won 2 awards for books I edited. We Are Here to Hurt Each Other by Paula D. Ashe won a Shirley Jackson Award for Best Collection.
I love that collection. It's so good.
Yeah, it's great. It makes me a lot of money too. Sorry, it's true. And then Elegies of Rotting Stars, which is Tiffany Morris's poetry book, tied for 3rd for an Elgin Award, which is pretty cool also. Just because, I didn't actually expect to do a poetry book, but here we are. But a lot of other stuff really sucked. Like, I'm not going to mention anyone else from the press because I don't believe in showing numbers and stuff like that because that's sort of rude. But I can talk about like my own books. So it was like I had a novel in 2022 that did pretty good for small press, like around 200. All of the 3 books I released in 2023 combined, they're still not even like close to the sales I made in 1 year on that novel from 2022. So that should give you a sense of like the decline, just in terms of like numbers. And it's hard to say because, it's like maybe it's the book you're trying to do, like not every book is going to like do as well as the others. But I think a lot of it's also the economy. It was like, I think around 2023 when the crazy inflation started, I think. So sure that has something to do with it. I mean, we still sell books, but it's like, I've just like gathered enough paying attention that like there's a lot of people in publishing hurting right now just because everyone is broke as hell. And it's like, if you're going to pick between groceries or buying a new book, I get it, man.
Yeah. Well, I will say last week we discussed reality but more fun with Madeline Swan from your book publishing company. And that book was tons of fun.
Books. It was so much fun. Yeah, it was nice going to because I hadn't been doing novellas. I don't know. I'm just sort of stubborn. So when I saw they were like doing even better, I was like, well, now I don't want to do one. But you know, finally 2024, I was like, all right, fine, we'll do some novellas. So yeah, I liked hers.
It was fun, yeah.
Oh, totally.
And we had a nice conversation with her.
Yeah, I mean, she's a smart lady. She's also very funny, which I actually didn't know about her. But she is, yeah. I was like legit laughing out loud at a lot of her novella. So it was a fun editing process too, because you know, keeps you engaged. But yeah, I mean, 2023 was like, you know.
I feel like 2023 might have been the worst publishing year in the industry just for people hurting for money since like COVID.
Yeah. You know what was weird though around like COVID times is like I wasn't doing that much worse. Like, you know, into 2021, I mean, like I wasn't doing amazing yet, but it was like comparable, you know. It wasn't any worse than how I did in 2023.
Yeah.
Might have actually even been a tiny bit better. I think because you had like people sort of captive, you know, more or less. So more people were reading because they were getting laid off and all this other craziness and they were stuck in the house. But yeah, I'd like to move away from how shitty 2023 was.
No, we're going to stay. I'm joking. we can move away. And we'll talk about your new book that's coming out.
Yeah.
Well, I say coming up. I know you're working on it right now.
I think one of the fun things about agreeing to do this was like, I'm fucking flying by the seat of my pants here because I'm not technically done with the novella yet.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to you and you're like, yeah, you can come on. I was like, okay, well, I'll try to get you guys.
Like early promo. I read the pages that you sent me. I think we all read the pages that you sent us. And I will say from what I read, I'm really into this.
Well, thank you. It's a little bit different from stuff I've done, but yeah.
Yeah, it's different from what I've read from you, but like I don't know, I'm intrigued by the bits I've read. But why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what this book's about?
Well, the title is The Clear Lake Killer, 1974. It's about a serial killer in San Francisco and Northern California in 1974. And it's about two detectives, Detectives Casano and Maitreya, who are trying to solve the murders. And there is a cult involved called the Church of the Dark Light that sort of intersects. And it's all about, I guess ostensibly it's a mystery because it is sort of a whodunit. But it's more like a Seven or a True Detective whodunit, you know, where it's like very dark and getting into just like horror territory, sort of Thomas Harris.
Yeah, I was getting like kind of like De Palma vibes a little bit.
Yeah, or something by like De Palma, yeah. Because I am a horror writer, so it's like anything I attempt, even when I try to do something light that has nothing to do with horror, the horror just creeps in.
I'm the same way. Like I'm legit. Like I'm gonna try to write a happy story, and then I'm like, ooh, what if the house is haunted though?
Like legitimately, when I was writing goddamn Zombie Chainsaw Murder, it was 2021, and I was like, God, it was so bleak. I want to do something really fun, and it is fun, but it was like by page 50, it's like someone has PTSD that comes out, and there's like unrequited homosexual love, and it's just like, where did all this come from? Like, I was just gonna do a light like Goosebumps for adults, and then all this shit happened.
What were some of your influences going into this project? I know it's like you're trying to do something different, but what would you say like inspired?
I mean, a lot of influences. It's kind of funny because, you know, like as a writer, you're perceived a certain way because you just have put out. I mean, a lot of the times, honestly, what happens is you do a certain style of book, And I think that book takes off really well. And then you have an agent or you're just smart and you go, cool, I'm going to do that style of book for a while. And then you get sort of seen a certain way. So better or worse, I have not had that big book yet that sort of steered me. I've had an okay book and then various other kind of like, mileage may vary types of successes. But in my personal life, yeah, I've been watching like, crime stuff and reading kind of true crime or adjacent sort of thrillers for a lot of my life. My girlfriend's like a huge true crime nut, so that was probably, it's just like background noise. It's like I could just spout off serial killers for like an hour and like facts about them.
Same.
Yeah.
It's the life of a horror writer.
It is, but it's funny because it's like there is sort of a divide I've noticed between like you get your horror fans that are like, I like werewolves and ghosts. I don't like more of the real stuff. And then you get your people more like me where it's like, I like it all, but I also can tell you, about like BTK or the Zodiac or Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's because for them, they want the escapism. But at the same time, they don't realize that horror is basically everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, when they say, like, I like werewolves and vampires and stuff, I mean, they're like, you do realize that is seeped into real life horror, though. Like, it's blended into that. So, okay. It's like, if you're not ready to go and see, I'm not saying experiencing because that would be awful, but just like see what like true horror, like especially when you see it in true crime, it gives you a better perspective. And also, I can't say appreciation, but a better understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I like it all, but I get why some people, it's like you had a hard day, you kind of want to like relax and go for something more escapist. What I've never understood is there's a section of horror fans that don't want it to be scary. And I'm like, well, okay, isn't that the main point though? Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I get it. There's like horror comedies aren't necessarily scary, but like, you can be into those. For the record, Goddamn Zombie, it's a series now. So I have 2 books in that. That is more comedic horror. So part of the whole thing about doing the Clear Lake Killer was like, I'd like to take a break from like comedic, because like better or worse, it's like a judgment thing. It's like if someone knows you can do funny horror, you're the funny horror guy.
Yeah.
So you sort of have to be careful how much funny horror you do, because, you fuck around and then no one will take you seriously.
Isn't it basically what Paul Tremblay is kind of like worried about now, being the ambiguous horror guy?
Paul Tremblay has broken free from ambiguous horror.
Oh, he has? Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't written an ambiguous horror book in a little bit now.
Yeah, because he was afraid of that, right?
Yeah, well, he wrote those 3 books back to back that were all like ambiguous.
Yeah.
So then he wrote like a book about a rabies outbreak.
Yeah.
And then he did the vampire one.
Yeah.
And now he has the found footage one coming out.
Yeah, it's called a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it because, it's like he took off on a Head Full of Ghosts. Well, I mean, you said he wrote all of those back to back too. So it's like you have no idea. You're just writing them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess, sorry, I sort of rambled too. Interests and like,
it's fine.
Influences on the Clear Lake Killer. Well, interestingly enough, it's technically a prequel to Another Goddamn Zombie Chainsaw Murderer, because when I did the sequel to the slasher book, I was like, okay, how do I change it up enough that I'm interested in writing it? Because I'm not really a traditional sequel guy. Like, I'd never take just characters from book 1 and have them kind of going through the same motions, because I find that a little boring. So it's more like when I do a sequel, it's like a spin-off or it's some sort of reconceptualization. So for this for the sequel to Goddamn Zombie, I was like, all right, so that was really fun and like outlandish. I'd like to be more grounded and real and, like vaguely true crime. So I invented this character. I'm not going to say the name, but, and just used it as like a sort of intro part to the sequel novel set in 1974. And then I had done so much research into that, though, and there was this whole backstory on this guy that I never actually bothered to like show. And so I had released They Never Find the Bodies in Whispering Pines, which I still think is one of my best books, but it's doing a little bit mid. It's selling okay, but and after that I was just like, okay, I should like, do a novella and maybe try something new. And it's just like I have all this information in my head from this one fictional serial killer I invented. So I'm like, oh, well, it sort of writes itself, doesn't it? It's like I made up all the shit he apparently did, so just flesh that out. And so that's what the novella is. But it's mostly unrelated. Like it's pretty much you can pick it up, like having not read any of my stuff, and take it at face value.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like I said, what I've read, I'm already like intrigued. Like I want to read this once it's available.
I agree. Like I'm like one of my guilty pleasures that I like researching about. It's cults. So I have like I used to listen to a whole podcast just devoted to cults. So when you said that it was gonna have like cults in it, I was immediately like on board. But did you gather any like I don't say inspiration for that cult, or was it just like something from your own head?
Well, for one, I've lived in Santa Fe for 5 years, and just like it's not like you're seeing cultists every day, but that's sort of the backdrop. If you do any research into the Southwest, it's just like there are cults everywhere. And for some reason, specifically around Santa Fe, there's a lot of cults. So I guess that was maybe, but like in terms of actual inspirations for like what something like the Church of the Dark Light is like as a cult, probably like the Manson family is like the most obvious analog, because it's sort of like a vaguely hippie cult, because it's set around San Francisco in the 70s, so that's just the territory.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I mean, they're like vaguely satanic. I can't think of any satanic cults off the top of my head, but that's definitely involved.
Did you think? I got like, I don't know if you felt it as well, but I got like a Nexium kind of vibe to it as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's in there.
Yeah, but instead of like the guy being running it, it's Evangeline who is doing it.
Yeah, and I mean I really like I like the Hexfords. I liked inventing them. I like the idea of this woman that's basically running the show, and then she has this just like enormous kind of like wordless husband who's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like sort of ostensibly a sex cult as well. That's not like the primary intent, but they'll have these rituals, and it's like they're basically just like chaos rituals. It's like we're just gonna like howl and have sex with each other and wear masks and shit. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like the actual cult itself, I did sort of just invent it because I was like, oh, creepy masks and like Eyes Wide Shut, like sex rituals, and sort of just all bubbled around in my head and came out that way. But also, I had written like 5,000 or 6,000 words of Clear Lake Killer, and I sort of realized where I was going with the ending. And I stopped and then did like a very extensive outline because I realized like, okay, I'm a reader. I don't love that ending. So like, how do I add more elements to the story so that this novella doesn't just stop dead at this certain plot point? So I invented the cult, and it just made sense too because it's San Francisco in the 70s, and it's like that's just the backdrop.
Makes sense. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
honestly,
I
no.
mean-
It makes. I'm sorry, you go, Sean.
You
I
go.
interrupted you.
No, you
That's
can go. I was
I was
done. I was
saying, no,
getting a drink of water.
it makes sense, and it all sounds really good. I also like Vit LeMay. Am very interested in cults as well. So every time those pop up in stories, I'm like, ooh, I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a I'm such a sucker too, because I was like, I swear to you, since 2022, I've been like, I'm gonna do a standalone thing now. So that was Goddamn Zombie, was like standalone novel. And then it did really well. My dad kept making jokes about a sequel, and I was like, fuck, all right, fine, here's the sequel. And it's like, that was my first novel too in 2017, The Demon. I was like, standalone. And then I got halfway through that, and I was like, fuck, this is a trilogy. Okay. And then this one, I was like, all right, this has to be just its own. And then I invented the cult, and I was like, oh, god damn it, there's an 80s one that's gonna come next. That's like, just the cult and Maitreya. So I seem to be like physically incapable of not doing series, which is, I guess there are worse problems to have, but yeah.
Might come to you later. I mean, it's not like you're gonna stop writing anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, no. What I mean is, like, literally the way I work is like, I was halfway through this novella and I already had a sort of spiritual successor plotted out. Like, if you had gone to my head and made me write the 80s cult one today, I could do it in like a week.
Honestly, yes. Just do it now. I'm
Well, I gotta finish the first one. I mean, I'm not even. That's the funny part. Doing the press run and all this shit is like, I got blurbers like, oh yeah, I'll when is it done? I'm like, your guess is as good as mine. Hopefully in a week. Yeah. So I'm very close to done. I'm at 16,000, and the projected is like 20,000. So like, I'm basically done. Just not done.
Nice.
And yeah, I haven't done an edit yet on it either.
Do you have a release window for the book? Are you hoping to get it out by?
June. Yeah, like
June?
The first couple weeks of June. Yeah.
Okay. So keep an eye. Just to our audience, keep an eye out. I'll make sure when it comes out, let me know. That way I can at least post it around on social media, help give you some promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
But no, honestly, Sean, this book sounds really good. And I still need to read and Never Find the Bodies in Whispering Pines. But I've enjoyed everything I've read from you so far.
I hope more people read it because it's gotten some bad reviews, and I could lie and say it's fine, but like, hurts my soul.
I might push it up the TBR pile then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus again, but like, there's a Goodreads review that just starts with "Hoo boy," and I'm like, well, that's never great. I'm able to laugh at it, but I mean, so you guys covered Astrum.
Yes.
Yes.
And you liked that. So
yes.
What was interesting is Astrum, and I did another novella called Farmington Correctional, and I had another story for my first chapbook, Too Late. The plan was always these sort of separate releases and then having this full book. So what I had expected, you can't predict it, but I had expected, okay, well, people like this well enough, they like this well enough, and they like this story from here. When it's a full book, everyone will show up, and that is not what has happened. So, like, getting a few reviews, they're like the stories, don't like the rest. I'm like, okie doke. Fair, I guess, but,
like,
yeah, I mean,
there's
people are just, I've noticed, if I can just briefly go back to 2023.
Yes.
I've noticed people, I don't know if it's just that Goodreads is bigger than ever, but like, it seems like people go to Goodreads just to shit on stuff now. And I'm sure people like plenty of stuff, and are positive, but it just seems like reviews in general, like people are just like, they're just off the chain now. They will just not hide their opinions at all. Not like they ever did, but like Really, really don't hide them now.
Yeah, Goodreads is not. I don't know. I feel like a few years ago, Goodreads used to be more fun than it is now.
Yeah, I mean it's still a good resource because obviously it's social media for books, but I guess the best example I have is like they never find the bodies, right? I've got like a bunch of 1-2 star reviews for that on Goodreads, but like with written reviews. And then if you go to the Amazon page, it's like there's a 1-star, but there's no review. So it's like something about being on Amazon. It's like they aren't gonna share their opinions the same way as they are on Goodreads. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. But I will say that. I mean, I will say too is like we've all been in the horror industry for quite a while. And I think also the markets have changed a lot throughout the years, and the way we interact with each other has changed a lot throughout the years.
When I was first taking off, the huge thing was like Lovecraft everything. And I could not get into an anthology to save my fucking life. Because I'm not necessarily good at the Lovecraft homages. I wrote a few that were decent, but like that's not really my bag. And then thankfully for me, at least, that sort of went away. At least a little bit. I don't know. I'd say from like 2015 to maybe 2018 or 19, it became. I don't know. Actually, it's hard to say. But it just opened up more in terms of like themes on anthologies, and I noticed that the work taking off was more, I guess ambiguous. Yeah, like it wasn't necessarily cosmic horror anymore. It was more body horror or kind of like personal politics or something like that.
It's just interesting to see the trends kind of change throughout the years.
Yeah,
see like what people are getting drawn to, what people are interested in. It's hard to keep up with. I mean, I think the best is just to be true to yourself and true to your art. And you should find your audience, but you should just be true to yourself and true to the art that you're making.
Well, the thing is, like, I've heard this from multiple people now, too. Even if you are, like, say, today I decide I'm going to go off of some trends and write a novel that's super duper trendy. And I'm like, okay, body horror is big and this and that. Say I write that novel even in 6 months. By the time it's out, that might not even be the trend anymore. So even if you're trying to do that, sometimes you can't effectively do it. Just because of the time it takes to write a book.
Oh, totally. And like even the books that are being put out by like the major publishers, like a lot of those books are written like a year to 2 years before they're even on the shelves in stores.
Yeah, yeah.
So like even those are like not really on the trends that like they're not written as quickly as people think they are. Like they take it takes time for everything to come out.
It does. If there's any benefit to self-publishing and running my own press,
it's faster.
It's publishing. That. It's I can like put it out like just instantly. And if there's any negative, it's like, all the rest.
I feel that. But I will say it's been a pleasure having you on today, Sean.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been excellent to come back on. I'm excited to release this new horror crime novella. I guess I should do like one kind of official last rundown on it.
Yes.
So if you're a fan of films like Seven or the show True Detective or Alan Wake 2 or 8mm, Brian De Palma films, David Fincher films, like Zodiac is obviously a big influence since I'm writing about sort of like a vaguely Zodiac style killer in the 70s when he was active. Yeah. And what else? Oh, and the films of there's also, there's horror elements. So I'm very influenced by the films of Osgood Perkins, who did stuff like I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House and Blackcoat's Daughter and Gretel and Hansel. And he's got a new one coming up I'm very excited for called Long Legs. Right.
I saw a trailer for it last night. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah. So like I had heard about that a year ago, and like I'd be lying if I didn't say like part of the reason I wanted to try, I was like, oh, he's doing a crime thing, and I love him, and like, I love his steez. So I'm not like, there's no way to obviously capture visual mediums in written words, but I'm definitely inspired by his tone for sure. So I'd like to think there's a little of that in The Clear Lake Killer, 1974. So yeah, if you like serial killers, cults, the 70s, and horror crime fiction, you should look for it in June from Nictitating Books.
Perfect. And where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Just don't. No. That was a joke, by the way. Let's see. Ain't nothing impossible at gmail.com is my email address. I'm on Twitter at SpookySeanT. Those are the main ways.
All right.
I'm on, like everyone now, 12 different types of other social media, including TikTok, which I have no idea what to do with. But the best thing is probably Twitter or my email.
Just make sure you don't give anybody a free cup of tea and then listen to this podcast and find your email about it.
Oh, I would have to have friends for that to happen. So.
I'm joking. But Vitlame, where can listeners get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on Twitter at VitlameS. And I'm also on Instagram with my handle Fangs and Light. And I also have a website that, again, I haven't gotten to update it, but hopefully I will do it before ice come at vitlamemistauthor.com. .com? Yeah.
Perfect. And you can follow Circuit to the Abyss with @IntoStaring. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.